Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Splendor Duel from Space Cowboys. Splendor Duel is the two-player version of Splendor, a game that has become very popular, and now we have a two-player version of it called Splendor Duel. The core concepts of Splendor are the same, but I will dive into those in case you're not familiar with Splendor. To that end, the basic idea of the game is you're trying to get, well, a few ways to win in this game, and this is where we're going to already start seeing differences. You can either get to 20 points over here, or you can have 10 crowns. Some of the cards you buy in the game will have crowns, or you can have 10 points on a single color of cards. Either of those three will trigger you winning the game, and, well, that involves you winning the game. Past that, on your turn, you're going to do a few things in the game as you go through it. First of all, we're going to go ahead and give a privilege token to the player who's not going first, and then we'll have the other player, this fictional player on the left over here, or I guess right, I don't know which side you're looking at this. Either way, this player over here is going to go ahead and take any 3 gems in a row, column, or diagonal, but without taking any gold from the board. There's only one way to get gold, and we'll talk about that soon. So for example, let's say I'm trying to go for this card over here. I want green and blue, so over here if I go I'm going to take these over here. I'm going to take this green and blue. So I'm taking these over here. It's worth noting right about now that if I had taken 2 pearls and one take, then one player will get a privilege. The other player will get a privilege. If I take 3 of the same color, the other player will take a privilege. So you want to be mindful of what you take as you go through it. From there, we're going to go to this player over here, and maybe they're going to go ahead and reserve a card. Or maybe, you know what, they're going to go ahead and just take some of these over here. So they're going to grab these over here, going for whatever they're going for. Maybe they're going for this card over here. That could be helpful. Back to my turn. I really wanted to get my hands on that little row of green over there. Get that green and blue. I could just take these 2 over here. Maybe I will. I don't know. You know what? Let's go ahead and just take these over here. We're going to grab these 2 over here, and I got my card. This player over here, seeing that, will go ahead and reserve that card, because why not? They'll go ahead and use their privilege, and you cannot reserve a gold with a privilege, but you could go ahead, sorry, I apologize, wrong thing I'm doing there. They're going to take a gold, specifically take a gold, and reserve this card over here, which is now their card. They're going to put this out. You can have up to 3 cards reserved in the game. Back to this player over here, they have to pivot from what their strategy was. They do have these cards over here. Maybe they get that red. I don't know. They can try to figure it out. We need a white and black for that one. So we can go ahead and take these over here, taking that out of the way, and there you go. Keep in mind at the end of your turn, you have to discard anything above 10 gems, so to be mindful of that. Back to this player's turn, they're going to go ahead, and they want to actually build that card. So what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and... There's no great options on the board over here. They will take these 2 gems with their pickup, and they'll use a privilege to take any 1 gem from the board, and they'll take this privilege over here. So they're going to use that. That's an optional extra action. Return that to the center over here. Back to this player. This player is going to go ahead and take this card over here and add it to their own tableau, paying in those costs. Now in Splendor, these are going to go back into the bag. We'll talk more about how that works later. But in Splendor, now any card that costs red, they have a red gem towards the cost of that card. There we go. We have a card down here that's simply going to be points with no tableau building from it. Back to this player's turn, they're going to go ahead and build this gem over here, paying these, go into the bag, and then this has an ability over here, which the ability is you take any red gem from the board. So they're going to go ahead and take this red gem from the board, denying this other player a good selection over there. Back to this player's turn, they have to figure out what to do over here. They have a green if they want that, they have a pearl if they want that, but they need 1 more green. They sadly don't have a green, so they'll take a gold and they'll reserve this card, which they can go ahead and buy later. And it's going to come to this player's turn, where they're going to have to try to choose what they want to do. They also have a red towards that. They need more black though, so they're going to take this row of black over here. That's going to be their turn. Back to the side, and they're going to go ahead and refill the board. Whenever you refill the board, the other player gets a privilege. So you're going to have access to all those shiny new gems that will fill from the middle out as you go. But unfortunately, the other player is going to get a privilege because they didn't get first access to that. So it's always a bit of a push and pull of when to refill the board. From there, they're going to take a bunch of something. I don't even know what to take right now because we ideally want some reds over there. I guess we'll take that pearl. Pearls are always good to get our hands on. We'll grab this, this, and this. And that's basically what's going on here. Now, we're going to stop playing at this point. That's the back and forth. On your turn, you can basically take any gems. If you take 2 pearls at a time or 3 of the same color, you have to give your opponent a privilege. You can also trade in privileges as an optional action to go ahead and take any 1 gem except gold from the board. Or you can alternatively reserve a card. You're reserving a card from either the top deck or from the row. And then lastly, you can go ahead and buy a card. Additionally, if at any point you go ahead and get your 3rd crown or your 6th 6 crowns. So you'll see some cards have crowns on them. When you earn your 3rd crown or your 6th crown, you get one of these bonus tiles over here, which are going to give you points and or an ability. You get a choice of it. So over here, you can steal a gem from an opponent. You can take another turn right away. You can go ahead and take a privilege, or you can straight up go for the 3 points, which is good, but not as good if you're specifically going for those 6 crowns as a win condition. You're going to rinse and repeat until eventually one player has achieved that win condition of either 20 points, 10 points on a single color, or 10 crowns, and then that player will win the game. And that is how you play Splendor Duel. Familiar to those who know Splendor, slightly different as far as setup. The fact that you have a different number of cards in each row, the 3 different win condition, the abilities on the cards, the fact that you have some cards with no points. You have this card over here, which counts as any color. It's 3 crowns, and it goes into any color, so you can use it towards any one of those tableau building aspects you're working towards. A bunch of things you can do in this game, but the core concept of Splendor is present. Take gems, build up your tableau, rinse and repeat until somebody wins the game. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into the review, starting off with what I like over here, which is the better balance seemingly to the game. Splendor is a game that was originally designed as a tableau builder, but very often if you're playing at a higher level, the amount of tableau building going on in the game is incredibly minimal, and it's a very fast-moving game where you're really only going to have 4 or 5 cards before somebody wins the game if you're playing it efficiently and optimally, which takes away from the tableau building. This game changed that with, first of all, 20 points, 3 different win conditions, usually forcing players to have a few more cards in play before that game is triggered, so you're likely not going to see someone winning Splendor Duel with 5 or 6 cards, so it's slightly, better balance is the wrong terminology, balanced more towards the type of game it seems to be trying to present itself as, if that makes sense. To me, I think Splendor is a lot of fun, but I think if you play Splendor optimally, it doesn't feel like what Splendor was meant to be, if that makes sense. That's just my opinion, but yeah, I think that I don't have that problem as much in Splendor Duel. I like the fact that there's multiple ways to win. In general, having 3 different win conditions gives you different things to either focus on or pivot on as you try to go through that. And that combined with powers and abilities on cards, which is something that's been added to this one. You have certain cards that have powers on them, gives you, not this one over here, I don't know why I pointed that, but you have certain cards that have powers on them, gives you another thing to consider more than just the cost and the tableau building, but also having powers in play. That distribution of having more level 1s, fewer level 2s, fewer level 3s is another thing that just makes sense based on the economy of the game in play. So you have 5 level 1 cards out at any point instead of 3 the way you would in Splendor. The tension of refreshing the board is a fun little challenge of trying to figure out how do you make do with what you have, or do you alternatively give your opponent a privilege, which translates into a free gem, in order so that you can refresh the board and have first pick of what comes out. That tension is constantly present. So overall, it's Splendor, and it has the fun tableau building of Splendor, but it has that tableau building with a few tweaks and adjustments to it that overall, to me, present a slightly better game. As far as what I don't like in the game, I do find that somewhat differently than Splendor, it can be a little slower moving at times. There's a little bit more analysis paralysis as players look at the board, or as players try to wait out the refilling and not giving their player a privilege as they do so. So the game can slow down to a small degree. And the decision space also, like similar to the game above it, similar to Splendor, the decision space in this game isn't huge. There are decisions, there's points, there's things you're trying to balance and be mindful of, but I would not say the decision space in this game is huge. It is well done, but it's ultimately the same lighter, accessible game that does have a lot of strategy to it that Splendor has, but with tips and with tweaks and adjustments along the way. As far as what I can see others not liking, if you don't like Splendor, I don't think this is changing your mind. I don't think, if you like Splendor but had problems with it, or I don't know, I don't think the core gameplay is different enough from Splendor that if Splendor wasn't your jam, I don't think Splendor Duel is as likely to be your jam. If you like Splendor with issues, or you like Splendor but didn't keep it, or things like that, if you enjoy the gameplay of Splendor, I think Splendor Duel is going to deliver that same gameplay with adjustments. But overall, the game is on the lighter side as far as the decision space, so if that's not your jam, that's not your jam, but it is well done as far as the ways they took a game that is well loved, tweaked it for 2 players, giving you a bit of a tension puzzle back and forth, and overall works fairly well. As far as final thoughts on Splendor Duel, I like the game, but it does just feel like Splendor to me. It feels like Splendor with tweaks, with adjustments, but I think that if I'm looking at Splendor as a competitive game where I'm trying to play it, cutthroat and really trying to win, then Splendor Duel is much better than Splendor to me. But despite the fact that Splendor is a game that is optimal in a certain way, I still play it with the way I generally play it. I still play it trying to gather cards and build towards a fun tableau and not just taking chips and winning. And so for me, Splendor Duel feels like a slightly cleaner, slightly better version of Splendor that I do enjoy. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It's a game I like. It's a game I recommend. Ultimately, it does land in the same space as Splendor for me, which is a game that once upon a time I was very, very charmed by. But then the more time went on, the less I found charm as much in that particular engine, just due to repeated plays, repeated enjoyment, and consistently seeing what the game has to offer. Splendor Duel gives you a slightly new a slightly new adjustment in that, and a twist. I keep trying to say twist and trick and tweaks and adjustments, and it's not working the entire video. Splendor Duel works well. To me, it still does have the core gameplay of Splendor. It's a 3.5 out of 5, a good game, but not one that I'm necessarily in love with. As far as other game recommendations, if you are looking for two-player experiences that I feel have a lot more meat to them while being just as accessible, or I shouldn't say just as accessible, but almost as accessible, I highly recommend Targi and Seven Wonders Duel. Both of those are two-player head-to-head experiences that have you vying over the same resources over a limited pool, but with a lot more things happening in both those games that enhances just how much I get out of those experiences. So Targi and Seven Wonders Duel, there's a lot of games out there in this genre. Those are the two that I'm picking for recommendations today. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.